Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and I'm reviewing the Panasonic Lumix LX3. This is the camera that my mom gifted my brother way back in 2008 when it first came out. For the recent 10 or more years, this camera has been sitting in an attic somewhere. Until maybe a few years ago, the CCD sensor digicam phase rolled up. Of course, I had to see what the fuss is about, so in April, I brought this camera out for a spin for the first time. And at that time, this camera was selling in the second-hand market in Korea for about $100. The LX3 has a Leica Vario Zoomicron zoom lens. The zoom ranges from 24mm to 60mm equivalent focal length. Aperture ranges from f2.0 to f2.8, which is pretty good for a zoom lens. And it has 10 megapixels. I guess that's why the image quality is so good. The hype around the digicam is that it is supposed to have low megapixels to give out a nostalgic vibe. But this camera is far from it. This camera has image stabilization. I don't know how much it helped in my photo shoots, but it does have it. I was more using this camera as a run-and-gun style street photography, and only a handful of times did I get a blurry image. I was strictly in program mode for the first 5 days of using this camera because I didn't want to learn every ins and outs of this camera. To me, that is defeating the purpose because I just wanted to get the taste of the CCD sensor and the Leica lens and see what it is capable of. To my surprise, as I said before, the photos coming out of this camera was really great. Maybe too great. It was almost something that I didn't want to have happen because I was honestly in it for the nostalgic vibe that the digicams usually give out. The images coming out of this camera are really sharp and modern looking, not too nostalgic. I think the images coming out of this camera is closer to Ricoh GR3X than it is to a low megapixel digicam. A lot of the images you're seeing are cropped. Some photos are heavily cropped. It is very impressive that it is able to withstand such heavy cropping. I did shoot RAW on all the images, and the RAW files from this camera had lots of detail and dynamic range. I was very surprised at how much detail I was able to retrieve in post with the RAW files, like pulling back the highlights and brightening the shadows. The only digicam sort of experience I got from this camera was the tiny bit slow autofocus, the small size, low resolution backscreen, and the processing speed. And it has delayed shutter release, I think because of the processing speed. So I had to account for that as well when I was capturing candid moments. And another surprise was that this camera has film simulation. I didn't try it out on my real photo shoot because I didn't want to find out after my long photo shoot that I disliked the film simulation. For your information, the back LCD screen is so low resolution that it doesn't give an accurate portrayal of the photos that I shot. So I couldn't really make out how the simulation looked before seeing those photos on my computer. This is a 16-year-old camera, and it has 16-year-old battery. Because of this, I can only go on a photo shoot for an hour and the battery would die. It would not only die, but it resurrects and dies again, and it fluctuates while I'm using it. So it is a good idea to get a battery if you get this camera. I ordered a new battery for this camera and it performed well. Still had lots of life left after maybe an hour and a half of using it, so I'm happy about that. The feature I love the most about this camera is the zoom feature. Believe it or not, amongst the 12 lenses that I own, this is the only zoom lens that I have. I just dislike the large form factor, so I never owned one. This camera has zoom ranging from 24mm to 60mm, which is not much if you think about it. And I am not much of a wide angle focal length kind of guy, and I use my Ricoh GR3X with the 40mm lens. So I always use this camera at the 60mm focal length. 50mm is my favorite focal length, so it was refreshing using the focal length close to that in such a small form factor. As you may know, most or all fixed lens cameras out there are usually in the 28 to 40mm range. I was only using the Ricoh GR3X for months now. I needed some change. And this camera, which is the size of the Ricoh with a 60mm lens, was exactly the change that I was looking for. It really made photography fun again. I don't need to be as close to the subjects to get a good street photo out of it. Which is good because the focusing speed is slow, so if I'm close to the subjects, I need to slowly take photos of them, which I'm not too comfortable with. I can really see myself using this camera for a good while, maybe months, before needing a change again to keep my creative juices flowing. I do use the wide focal length from time to time, but I see myself disliking it because it is not a true 24mm, but a 5.1mm with a small CCD sensor. The field of view seems extremely wide for my liking. Another feature that I don't love is that this camera always starts out at 24mm equivalent focal length. It doesn't remember the last focal length that I was in. As I said before, I strictly use this camera at the 60mm equivalent focal length. I turn off and turn on this camera very frequently, and every time I turn this camera on, I would have to zoom in to 60mm, and it is not a quick process at all. So I have missed some shots because of this. All in all, this is a fantastic little camera. For a digicam, this camera delivers very sharp photos. Maybe I shouldn't even call this a digicam. And I found that this lens behaves like it has a mist filter built into the camera, because it has a pleasant highlight roll-off, which was a characteristic of the lens that I loved. I always have a mist filter on all my lenses, and this one has one built in. I honestly really hope that the content with this Lumix LX3 is well received on YouTube, because I enjoy using it very much more than I thought I would, and I plan to use it more in the future. So now I have a pocketable Ricoh GR3X, which is a 40mm equivalent lens, and this camera, which is also pocketable and can cover 24mm to 60mm range. I feel I'm almost set for life. Anyways, thank you for sticking around to watch this video. I post POV street photography videos and also videos with lots of B-rolls and photos, and reviews from time to time. So if you liked what you saw, please leave a like and consider subscribing because it will really help the channel out. Alright, this is all I have for today. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.